Welcome back to Classic Mosaic Truth. This is episode 6, and today's explainer dives into Ralph Waldo Emerson's absolute masterpiece, Self-Reliance. We're going to diagnose a really common, very modern exhaustion, the pure exhaustion of groupthink. We're going to figure out exactly why so many of us just sit around waiting to feel confident instead of actually doing something. We usually think, hey, I need confidence before I can act, right? Well, Emerson completely flips that script. He tells us that acting on your own inner truth is literally the thing that builds your confidence. Let's get into it.
Right near the beginning of this 1841 essay, Emerson hits us with this totally radical premise. He says, envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide. Think about your typical corporate meeting, right? Everyone's just nodding along, totally terrified to rock the boat. Well, Emerson argues that by just copying everyone else and stuffing down what you really think, you're essentially destroying your own unique genius. It's harsh, for sure, but envy really is ignorance, because you're blinding yourself to your own potential. And imitation? That's just spiritual suicide. You are actively killing off the exact person you are meant to be.
So I've got a question for you right off the bat, and I want you to really reflect on this. Are you living your own life, or are you living society's? Think about it. Are your daily choices coming from your own inner voice, or are they getting totally suffocated by social media expectations, your peers, and just modern conformity in general? Because, man, it is so incredibly easy to get swept up in what everybody else expects of you, right up until the point where you completely forget what you actually want.
All right, here's our roadmap for decoding all of this. Number 1, the trap of conformity. 2, defining true self-reliance. 3, the inner divine authority. 4, the power of nonconformity. 5, practical independence. And 6, the triumph of principles.
Okay, starting with section 1, the trap of conformity. Now, this is a deeply modern problem. Even though, Emerson was writing back in the 19th century, he uses this brilliant metaphor, defining society as a joint stock company. In this company, the members basically agree to surrender their personal liberty just so they can secure a safe, comfortable slice of bread. It's pure transaction. You're trading in your authenticity and your unique voice for this completely false sense of security and belonging.
And here's exactly what this joint stock company forces us to give up. The cost of fitting in is honestly incredibly steep. It demands you surrender your personal liberty and lose your true originality. And what do we get instead? Well, we get obsessively fixated on property, titles, and all these little societal badges. And by doing that, we completely avoid the rugged battle of fate, which is where true strength is actually born. Society's #1 requested virtue is conformity, and that actively, deliberately suppresses our natural inherent confidence.
Moving on to section 2. Defining true self-reliance.
So, if conformity is the disease here, what exactly is Emerson's cure? This is crucial because we really need to clear up a massive misconception. When people hear self-reliance, they almost always picture rugged individualism, physical survival, being this isolated lone wolf, or just completely feeding the ego. But guys, Emerson isn't talking about that at all. He's talking about inner authority. This is about trusting your profound intuition, setting up a real spiritual connection to the world around you, and living with absolute authenticity. It's not about being antisocial. It's about finally knowing where your true power actually lies.
I really want to anchor this explainer on this incredibly famous mantra from the text, "Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string." True confidence, it doesn't come from sitting around waiting for external permission. It doesn't come from constantly seeking validation from the crowd. It actually comes from tuning into what Emerson calls the aboriginal self, that deep ground floor truth inside you that's connected to a much, much larger universal wisdom.
Which brings us right to section 3, the inner divine authority.
To really grasp where this profound inner trust comes from, we have to look at the spiritual roots of this whole philosophy. Emerson's transcendentalism beautifully mirrors ancient wisdom, like stuff you'd find in the Bhagavad Gita. Picture a lone hiker who just reached a mountain summit, feeling totally connected to the vast landscape around them. See, the individual soul isn't cut off or isolated at all. It is beautifully, intricately woven into the universal divine, or what Emerson calls the oversoul, or oneness. So when you trust yourself, you are actually trusting the immense intelligence of the universe that is literally flowing right through you.
All right, section 4, the power of nonconformity.
So how does all this deep inner authority actually show up in the real world? Simple. It requires absolutely refusing to blend in. And this brings us to one of his most quoted lines ever. A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Basically, we cannot let ourselves be paralyzed by the fear of contradicting our past selves. If you learned something brand new today, you have got to have the confidence to evolve and change your mind, even if it totally contradicts what you boldly stated yesterday. True growth demands the confidence to leave your old, outdated opinions in the dust.
Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Here, Emerson is pointing out how the greatest historical minds have always ignored the crowd. But he also points to something so relatable, the natural, totally unbribable innocence of children. Just picture a kid playing spontaneously, completely unbothered by what anyone else thinks about their game. That right there, that is the sheer power of ignoring society's judgments and living 100% from your own center, without a single hesitation.
Let's get practical with Section 5, Practical Independence.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we practice this self-reliance in our hyper-connected, ridiculously noisy daily lives? Well, here is a super simple 3-part practice pulled straight from the text that we'll call the action reset. If you want to actively build confidence, just follow these 3 steps. First, use silence as a filter to tune out all that external noise. Second, completely commit to living in the present moment. And third, practice intellectual bravery in your everyday interactions. Let's break these down a bit.
So applying intellectual bravery to a modern workplace basically means prioritizing realness over niceness. Imagine actually speaking up with total confidence in a boardroom when literally everyone else is just nodding along. It's about choosing candor, saying what you actually believe, and fully owning your results instead of just hiding behind safe, polite groupthink. True relationships, real collaboration, they both require the absolute courage to just be completely real.
Now zooming in on the second step of our action reset, dropping the corpse of memory. Imagine you're just sitting quietly in nature, watching a rose bloom. Emerson is begging us to live completely in the present day, exactly like those roses do. They don't sit around worrying about the roses that bloomed before them, and they definitely don't stress about the winter that's coming. We've got to stop dragging around the heavy, exhausting baggage of our past mistakes and just live fully and confidently right now.
And finally, Section 6, the triumph of principles. As we recap this journey out of the trap of conformity, I really want you to remember this statement. My authority comes from my nonconformity. Your true power, your absolutely genuine confidence, it lies in your uniqueness. It does not come from your ability to seamlessly blend in with the crowd. The second you stop trying to impersonate other people just to fit into that joint stock company, that is when you heal your internal division and finally become whole. Emerson delivers this final, just incredibly powerful summary thought: nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Wow. No amount of external validation, no amount of money, property, or social status is ever going to manufacture true inner peace for you. You have to build it yourself from the inside out. You do that by trusting your own intuition, embracing your connection to the whole, and having the sheer courage to actually act on it.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative question for the day. What will you do with your inner authority today? Seriously, are you going to keep waiting for confidence to just magically appear out of thin air, or are you going to take action and build it yourself? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on Classic Mosaic Truth. If you got something valuable out of this, drop down and leave a comment answering the question of the day. What societal expectation do you need to drop today? Let me know below. And don't forget to subscribe, because I will see you right back here for episode 7.